Welcome to the Volk Furs podcast. I'm your host, Garrett Volk. The fur trade has a rich history dating back to the 1500s. How has it survived, and what is the future? I will take a look at the history of the fur trade, in-depth discussions on various topics pertaining to trapping, fur fashion, interviews with industry experts, and much more. If you are addicted to fur, this is your podcast. Welcome back to the Volk Furs podcast, episode 2. We're going to talk fur market. We're going to talk a little bit of details from the Idaho Trappers Association fur sale in January. The Fur Harvesters auction's coming up March 20th, 23rd. Hopefully we'll see some prices set in that auction. It'll be interesting to see where everything's at, how many buyers there are, and how much demand, I guess. I think everybody's a little skeptical. I guess I am, at least. The world kind of right now in the fur realm is kind of in a flux, I guess. A lot of the big countries that deal with fur, they're either at war or they're shut down. China is, I don't know what's going on in China. I mean, they're destroying their country, and Russia and Ukraine are fighting, and a lot of the goods made in China go to Russia and Ukraine and everywhere else. So not good for the fur market. But in January, Idaho Trappers Association had their January fur sale. And I was just looking on their Facebook post on some of the prices and stuff. And I was kind of looking at some of the things that I deal with a lot with coyotes and stuff. The coyote prices were up a little bit from the March sale, but there wasn't nearly as many coyotes, and I think maybe some of the crafters are coming in a little bit. Muskrats were about the same, but there wasn't nearly the amount of muskrats. So it'll be interesting to see in March when they have their next sale here. I think they have their next sale. I think they're having another one to be able to see what's going on. So anyway. So the fur market, where's it at right now? Well, I kind of explained a little bit right at the beginning there. A lot of the furs that are bought and sold in North America, they end up in China, or they used to end up in China. I mean, there's furs that end up in Turkey and Greece and Italy and Europe and stuff like that. But there's a lot of volume that goes over to China, and when you can't get a raw skin into China, it's got to be a dressed skin into China. I mean, that's a big change. And with China, they were shut down. And still it sounds like it's not the best. And so then with Ukraine and Russia fighting, it's a lot of fur being used over there typically. And now with all that going on and the tensions in the world, the fur market is suffering from it. So, when this whole pandemic started, everybody was kind of wondering about the fur market and what it was going to happen. And I know I was talking with some fur guys about moving goods around and stuff like that, and they think that they at the time thought, well, they could still get stuff into China and some other places, and then all of a sudden everybody started shutting stuff down, and people weren't working everywhere and not spending money and staying at home, and I think that we didn't really see that in the fur market for like a year until after the pandemic started, and it kind of affected us. So it's definitely affected us fur people quite a bit. It's been gradual, and I think the fur market as a whole over the past several years has kind of been down for a lot of different items. The Western coyote was definitely a bright spot for many years, and that kind of started going downhill maybe, probably 2021 at the latest is kind of the beginning of the end, maybe a little bit before then, and now it's pretty much dead in the water. And as far as big volume amounts, I still think that really good skins, and you market your fur well, I think that you can still find some good prices here and there. And when I'm talking about all these fur prices and stuff, when I say it's down, yeah, it's down. Does that mean you can't sell it? No. I mean, you can still sell it. You just have to find the right people and the right application. And it makes it really important that you have the best possible fur that you can have. That means not trapping early, not trapping late, taking those skins prime, and I realize there are certain situations where animals have to be taken, whether it be control work and such like that. And that's totally fine. Sometimes that control work, is happening during the part of the year where the skins aren't worth anything anyway, but you just have to do it. It's part of the game, and it's part of what everybody has to do. And us being managers of these critters, that it happens 12 months out of the year. So the fur market's very volatile right now, and it's up and down, and mostly down now. I mean, it kind of has its swings. And so is it gonna recover? I don't know if it's gonna recover. It might not. We still have some fur state auctions. Idaho and the Western States Fur Auction is going to be happening out in Montana here in February, and the Colorado auction here is coming up pretty quick. And there's still some fur auctions out there. I think there's probably a couple of more states. I don't have a list in front of me, but there's some other states that have some state fur auctions. So where's all this fur going? I don't know where it's all going. I know that it's not being distributed worldwide like it was before. I'm sure there's a lot less fur being taken this year just because the market is down and people kind of regulate themselves that way. I haven't done a lot of trapping or hunting this year, just because some of the time, I trap and do my stuff as much time as I have. But this year, pretty busy with some other things, and the market's down a little bit, trying to be concentrating a little bit more on some of the items I'm making: fur hats, mittens, gauntlets, blankets, stuff like that. So where's all the fur going? Well, it's going somewhere. And one of the things that I think is maybe happening, and I don't have any concrete evidence on this, but I just have a feeling. It's kind of started a couple years ago, and I noticed a lot of trappers and hunters started to market their, whether it be raw skins or maybe they had some dress skins that they tried to sell and trying to sell online a little bit, maybe make a few extra bucks, and they kind of flooded the market there a little bit. And the people that, use skins for hanging on the wall or making crafts and stuff like that is small. And there's not a lot of visibility in the fur world, in the United States. Us trappers and hunters and fur buyers and furriers and stuff like that, we deal with it all the time. But the general public out there, it's not like going buying a pair of Levi's at the, department store. Some people don't have an idea what you can do with fur. And I think maybe, flooding the market with a lot of fur, definitely gives more visibility into it. And that's kind of where some of this fur is being sold. I don't have the numbers on how much, but I think just by looking on Etsy and these other websites and Facebook and some of these groups trying to sell items and, talking with people about how they sold a few skins there or whatever. I think some of this fur is just kind of staying in the country, which is kind of good. But so where's the fur market going then? Is it going to be a big volume business? Is it going to be more of a craft business? I don't know. I think there's going to be more of a volume. The more money's going to be in the volume as far as, in the big picture. What are those prices going to be? There's not many big fur guys sending stuff overseas anymore. There's a handful of businesses out there to do that. And a lot of the country buyers that are running around the country buying fur, they're not directly, exporting overseas. There might be a few, but some of these big guys that have, generations of customers and their business has been in their family for 2-3 generations. Those are the big exporters. How long are they going to be able to hold on? Are they going to have to change their model? Is the big volume wholesale fur market, is that out the window? I don't think it's out the window. I think there's a big time lull in it right now. And I think as us in the fur community have to do whatever it takes to keep it going. So that kind of leads me to what I think might be happening, maybe a little bit. I don't have any concrete evidence on this, but it's just a general feeling. You see people and you hear people. And of course, the more you're into something, the more you are aware and the more people you talk to. So it might seem more than what it is. However, trappers started flooding the market here with skins and stuff a few years ago when they couldn't sell their stuff, and that's great. I think it's great. And now you're starting to see more crafters. And what I mean by crafters is, it could include people selling their own skins, but people are starting to put together Davy Crockett hats. They're starting to put together trapper hats. They're starting to make pillows. They're starting to make, headbands and such like that, and they're selling locally and regionally to people that they have family and friends, and in these rural areas that still don't really have a negative opinion on fur because they grew up in the farming and ranching and hunting areas, and they understand it all, and they're not offended by it. Like some of these big city people are so offended by fur. And I don't even know if it's the big city people. I think it just might be people that think they know better for whatever reason. I have no idea. I'm still trying to figure out what the end game of these anti-fur people are. Does it make them feel good at night when they go to bed, or are they that bored in their life that they have to make somebody else's life miserable just to feel good? I guess I don't know. And if anybody's got the answer, please email me at info@volkfurs.com, because I'd like to know, because once we figure that out, I think this anti-fur thing goes away. Because the anti-fur people don't like fur, right? They don't like fur. So why are they even dealing with it? So there's some weird thing going on there with their brain. I'm not sure. But anyway, kind of got down a little rabbit hole right there. But I'm going to have one of those episodes here later on, because I just got a lot of questions and it just makes me really frustrated. But so the crafter market, I think there's a lot more crafter type people out there now, which is great. I've been doing it now for probably 5 years or so. I make custom made hats and gauntlets and blankets and pillows, and I've been doing more and more every year that I'm in it. And people don't look at me weird anymore when I wear my coyote hat out in public. It's just normal for them now. And I think over the years, especially in the United States, people went away from wearing fur, especially up in my area. I think years ago people wore fur, but I'm talking 40, 50 years ago wore fur, and it just didn't get to be practical anymore. I'm not sure why. Fad thing, probably a fashion fad thing. I mean, that fads come and go, and all the new winter gear and Gore-Tex and this Thinsulate stuff and everything like that. All this fake synthetic material that people really like, and it's great stuff, but it's not natural and it's not fur. But I think that once you start wearing it and once people start seeing it, it's not weird anymore. And I think that the more crafters out there is going to drum up more business. I mean, it's going to have to. You have a certain amount of people in a population that have no problem with fur, and you have some that have a big time problem with fur, and you have ones that don't really have a viewpoint at all. And so the people that are wearing fur, they wear it every day. They wear it to the grocery store, the post office, to the gas station, wherever they're at. Those people that don't have an opinion on it, they'll see that. They'll see it's normal. They say, there's 4 people over there that came out of the cafe at coffee time, and they got a fur hat on. What the heck? That's kind of cool, right? So, I think that the craft market is building some steam. I'd like to have some insight from you guys. Send me an email, info@volkfurs.com. Tell me where you guys are located at, and if you're seeing fur being worn. It should be. I mean, us as trappers, hunters in the fur community, people that like fur, we like to trap and we like to manage the animals. We like to make a little bit of money, but we also want to make sure that our industry stays alive. So we'd like to see people wearing fur, and I'd be interested to see what parts of the country you guys are listening from, and which it's probably not a lot yet, because this is only my 2nd episode. But as we get farther down the road here with episodes and reaching more people, I'm hoping that I can kind of figure out where people are wearing fur at. I mean, in North Dakota, we're rural. We're a rural state. You got the big cities, Bismarck, Fargo, Minot, some of those bigger areas with lots of different types of people that probably aren't from here to begin with. So they don't know the rural lifestyle, is so to speak. But it's rural for the most part, and a lot of people share a lot of the same views. So I'd be interested to hear that. But yeah, the crafter market, I think that's where it's going a little bit. I think that the crafters can probably, make a little bit of a dent regionally in their area, locally in their area, for getting fur more visible. When I first started making fur items, I wasn't into the fancy pill boxes or the fancy trim on a coat or whatever. My goal was to make items out of fur that were practical for everyday use. Like the family goes up to the Turtle Mountains there, northern North Dakota. They go skiing or they go, Lake Metagoshi State Park. It's a popular, lake around here, and they got cross-country ski trails, and you can snowshoe, and they got snowmobile trails and such. And, I want to make items that people can go outside, they're outside hiking. They like to do it anyway, or they're out skiing, and they can put on a pair of beaver gauntlets that maybe that beaver was caught in the Turtle Mountains, and makes them feel connected more. And they can use them, they can wear them, they're warm, they look nice. And maybe that same person wants to wear a coyote hat. Maybe they, over Christmas break, their kids were out trapping and, caught a couple coyotes trying to sneak into the yard, and they're wearing that hat now when they're out hiking on those trails. So I think my goal is to make items that were practical for everyday use. When I think of fur back in the day, I think of, richer people with lots of money at their disposal to go out and buy fancy mink coats and really fancy pillbox hats. They wear them out 3 times a year to kind of show off to everybody, which is fine. I'm not judging. I'm just saying. And then when it gets to be summertime, they send them over to cold storage because that's what they were told to do. They keep them there until, maybe Thanksgiving, and then they wear them again. So that wasn't my goal. My goal was not to, be a fashion designer with a really cool looking thing, even though sometimes that's how things sell better, is have some really cool thing. But I was more into practical use because I think there's a lot more people out there that can wear fur more practical than, going to the fancy restaurant with your fancy mink coat. So that was the goal. And I think that it's a really it's a goal that's, sustainable. I think that, making items that are practical to wear and don't look too weird and are not cumbersome and are warm and, are durable and such. I think that's where the fur market is going a little bit. So keep that in mind. If you can wear fur or like fur, I think I relate it to this. Okay, if you're a trapper or a hunter, you guys do what you want, right? I don't care. But here's my comparison. If you're a trapper or a hunter, and you're out at night, say you get home from work at 5 o'clock, you go out and check your snares. You're out there, and it's super cold, right? It's 20 below, 50 mile an hour. Sometimes it's been like that. Say it's 50 below wind chill, right? Wouldn't it be nice to have a coyote hat on or some mittens on? Because you're actually out there doing this, and you're using the items that you're catching and providing for everybody. And I think I compare it to this. Imagine that cattle farmer, right? I didn't grow up with cows. I grew up farming. I'm a farmer. I grew up farming. My other parts of my family had cows. So, I'm not new to cows. We just didn't have cows growing up. And imagine that cattle farmer that's trying to raise the best beef. Now, some people like lots of fat and marbling in their beef. Some people don't. So use best beef as you will. I like fat, but I don't like fat. Anyway, imagine that Black Angus cattle farmer that's trying to market his cattle, his beef that's the best out there. And when they go to the supper table at night, they're having macaroni and tomato soup. So they're raising the best cows out there. They're marketing the best cows out there. But when they go home Sunday after church and have dinner at 1 o'clock, or they eat supper at 6 o'clock after watching the Minnesota Vikings choke. I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. That's why I said that. Instead of having hamburger, bacon, cheeseburgers off the grill, they're having macaroni and tomato soup. Now you get my point. Maybe they didn't have any hamburger thawed out, and maybe the kids wanted macaroni and tomato soup. But what I'm trying to say is that, you're a fur harvester and you want to market your product. You want to get the most money you can for it. Why don't you wear it? Wear your fur, right? If you don't want to wear fur, fine, right? I'm like I said, I'm not a judgy person, but I think that as crafters, that kind of helps move the fur a little bit. People start making more stuff. People start wearing more stuff. It's kind of like the eat beef commercials. It's like eat beef, right? Eat beef, right? A couple more people eat beef. Somebody tries beef from this farm over here. Wow, have you had Joe Smith's beef? That is great beef. The next family goes over and buys some Joe Smith beef. That's great. That's great beef. Same thing goes for you're out in the lake. You're out trying to catch walleyes through the ice, and you're out there. You don't have an ice house. You're out there with your, I don't know, coyote mittens and beaver hat, and you're warm as ever. Somebody steps out of their nice cozy ice castle, which they look pretty nice. I'm not an ice fisherman, so I'm assuming ice castles are pretty nice. I see them on the lake all the time, and they're like, "Wow, that's pretty cool. He can stand out there with his fur items on, not be cold." I might try some of that. I might get some of that fur. And all it takes is for you to wear a little bit of fur, talk a little bit about fur, to push the fur movement, right? And I think that's important. And I think that's what these crafters are going to start doing. I don't think it's a big volume business with these crafters. I mean, it takes a lot to make 20 hats for somebody, right? I mean, it's a lot of work, especially when, it's more of a hobby type business for a lot of these guys. Some are bigger businesses and that's what they do for a living, but some of the crafters that have been coming in the most recent years, I think that have been more of a hobby business type thing. That's me. But I think that's where the fur market might go a little bit and maybe keep it up regionally. So, it's an interesting conversation to have, and I think that hopefully it's a positive one. I do have a side note about wearing coyote hats out in public. So the first few years I was fur buying, I would go to the bigger town, an hour from me in Minot, North Dakota, and I'd buy fur on one night of the week, and I had my fur hat on. I'd walk into the gas station where I bought fur at. I'd walk into the gas station after I was done buying everybody's fur and stuff, and I'd get a coffee or whatever, and I had my hat on, and I walked up to the counter and paid for my stuff, and this gal was behind. She was a younger gal, and she was behind. She said, "Nice hair." I'm like, "Thanks." I'm like, "Nice hair? This is a hat." "Oh, that's a hat." And I don't know what she felt like, but I guess my point is that whether she called it hair or a hat, I don't know. I mean, whatever. She thought it was my hair, which my hair does not look like a coyote pelt, I guarantee you. But I might have a little bit of gray, but it doesn't look anything close to like a coyote pelt. And she commented on it, and so then every other time I walked in there, I mean, nobody really looked at me weird. I mean, once in a while you get a weird look, but I think it's important to wear your fur, and maybe if you get a comment like that, you can put that one in your notebook and tell somebody later about it. But so that's my outlook on the fur market. I think that there's always going to be a wholesale fur market. I really truly do. I think the big fur guys that export, I think they're becoming less and less, and it's becoming harder and harder to make it go, especially when the world consumption of fur is down. And it doesn't help that the anti-fur people are out there. I mean, there needs to be a concerted effort, movements, and I know there is. I know there's a lot of states doing a lot of good work trying to fight some of these silly laws that come into place. We might go through some of those in an episode one day. I might pick out the 5 most ridiculous laws that were passed in regards to trapping and fur in these states, and you states know which ones you are. We might go into that someday and just kind of talk about them, because it's aggravating to me. I mean, it makes no sense. It's more of I got an idea, and this is what we're going to do based off of nothing. So that's where I kind of think the fur market's going a little bit. I don't think it's like a big swing, but I do think some of the craft stuff is definitely going to have an impact locally and regionally on that. And one of the ways to make it a little bit better is to start wearing fur. Start wearing fur. Wear your fur hat into church and take it off, right? I mean, wear wear your gloves. Wear your gloves somewhere. I mean, just the more fur out there, the more visibility. People are going to understand. Hey, it's okay to wear fur. That's kind of cool to wear fur. The best thing you could do is I make these Davy Crockett hats as one of the items I make, and they've actually been pretty good sellers lately, and I'm not sure why. I mean, weird places across the country have been buying Davy Crockett hats. Of course, they're real fur. It's not the fake fur. It's real fur, and it's North Dakota raccoon. I mean, the youth in this world are the future, and everybody knows that with anything. And the youth need to be, given a chance to understand the fur, especially in rural areas where there's not a lot of trappers anymore where I'm at, and a lot of the kids don't understand the trapping, and I wish more would like to get into it, and I try to get kids into it from time to time if I know there's somebody around. But excuse me. If you got a couple nieces and nephews, or you got some close friends, family friends, buy them a couple hats. Buy them some cheaper, raccoon hats that don't cost too much. Buy real fur, of course. Spread the fur a little bit, and it makes a good gift, and people, they like it. It's a novelty, right? I mean, the more it's out there, the more people are going to be okay with it. They're going to ask questions, right? They're going to ask questions, and shed a positive light on it. So that's my take on the fur market, the current fur market. I might be totally wrong. That's how I see it. I deal with the fur buying part. I got some pretty good ins in the fur market industry with some people that really know a lot. Very knowledgeable. They're realistic. And I also deal with the craft side. I mean, I make hats and this and that, and mittens and gauntlets, whatever. So I understand that part and kind of see, I've sold more every year there, and people are more accepted of it. So I've got a pretty good insight, I think, on it. I could be totally wrong. I mean, the next guy probably has a total different perspective on it based where they're at. But I think we have this discussion a little bit about the craft market, and maybe that helps move it along a little bit, right? I mean, it's not going to make a huge, big difference, but maybe regionally in your state or your area, maybe that's great. I mean, maybe you live in a great spot with really nice badger, or maybe your beaver are just super thick leather and really dark, and maybe you decide to become a crafter. Maybe you decide to, this is like a beaver area, right? People take hundreds of beaver out of this area. I'm going to start making beaver hats and beaver mittens. That's all I'm going to make. This is a beaver known area in this state, whatever state you're in, and I'm going to start making that stuff. And that might be all it takes. It supports the local trappers. It supports you. Maybe it moves out a little bit. Maybe somebody has a different idea for an item. Stuff like that. Little stuff. I've always, my wife's grandfather that was beloved around the area, he had a saying that Rome wasn't built in a day. And it's kind of cliche. You've heard it before. Something wasn't built. It's not built in a day, right? I mean, it takes patience, and it takes building over time to make something worthwhile and sustainable, right? So, make it worthwhile, make it sustainable, shed positive light on it. So, I think I'm going to go over one last thing here. The Dakota Skinner is published twice a year from the North Dakota Fur Hunters and Trappers Association. I'm a District 1 director in that organization, but I do also write a fur market update twice a year. I'm just going to go over a little bit of what I wrote this last January edition that I put together here. I don't have a lot of positive things to say, but I think that relative to North Dakota anyway, if you're listening from North Dakota, which I'm thinking a lot of listeners, the first couple of podcasts here, probably from North Dakota, because I think, a lot of the podcast listeners are people I know, because I just, sent the word out that I got podcasts going. So I would appreciate sharing the podcast, and going forward, that'd be great. Subscribe. Everybody knows, what the coyote market's like. Not really going to go into it. I think the levels are probably going to stay the same right now. I'm not going to really get into prices much, detailed prices, but, a good put-up skin, dry skin, top skin might pull you, I don't know, depending on person, it might pull you $30 to $40 maybe. I'm not paying quite that much, close to it, for really nice skins. It's all a speculation game at this point. Red Fox, there's not a lot of demand for it. I think you probably should just take what you get. It's just one of those items, it pays the gas, Raccoon, kind of the same thing. I think the heavies might be in demand at some point. I just got a feeling that it might. The better skins. I mean, there's a ton of raccoon out there, I think, but I think the better, heavier skins possibly. Beaver going to be behind demand again. I mean, they really are. Last spring they were big time uptick, and I think there was a little bit of skepticism on if that was going to continue on to this year, but all signs, are kind of pointing towards good prices again. So we'll see at the Fur Harvesters auction in this spring what people are paying. I think the beaver is going to be good. The cast or something is going to go up a little bit maybe. The tails, the skulls, all that stuff's usable. I mean, beaver is like one of the best items to catch. I mean, one of the best animals to catch because you can use everything off of it. I mean, you can use everything. You got the caster, you got the tail, you got the skulls, you got the skin. I mean, people eat the beaver meat. I mean, I've never had beaver meat, but I guess you make it right, it's great. I've not tried it. So beaver is a very good animal to catch, and one that I wish we had more of where I'm at, but there's a few around, but not too many. Muskrat, they really went down since last spring. I mean, they just fell off. I mean, the overseas market, they want to buy them possibly, but for dirt cheap. I mean, you can't even fill a cardboard box where you can sell them for. I mean, it's really down, and I'm hoping it comes back a little bit because there's a lot of muskrats around, and depending on what part of the country you're in, I mean, there's a meat market for muskrats. So, I think the muskrat would be nice if it come back a little bit because there's a lot of them out there. Bobcat, I'm not going to get into pricing on bobcat because I don't deal with a lot of bobcat. There's some in North Dakota. I think the better skins, of course, are always going to be worth the best, like anything. I think it's a lot of subjective pricing. I think it depends on what people want. That's my opinion on that. Badger, I've always said that I'll pay really good money for pale, heavy skins because badger's really nice and long and soft. I think a lot of the taxidermy market gets some of the better badger. Skunk is a taxidermy item for the most part. Of course, the essence, you're selling to some lure makers and stuff like that. I think essence was going pretty good here a few years ago. I don't deal with a lot of skunk, I think we kind of trapped all of our skunk out of our area here years ago, and we haven't seen many. I mean, they're still out there, but big, wide stripes. Western skunks are a lot bigger, I guess, in some other parts of the country, so they're looking for some of our big skunks out here, and I think that taxidermy market's a really good market for that. Porcupines, I don't deal with porcupines a lot, but I know some people that do, and it's kind of a Native American item from what I understand with the quills and the guard hairs and such. So that's kind of my rundown on the fur for North Dakota. There's some otters. People catch some otters, a limited license of otter. I don't really get into that much and don't really, it's kind of a market. I mean, it's limited in the state for that. So, rabbits actually were going pretty good this year. In fact, somebody quoted the other day, I quoted somebody saying that, you can sell a rabbit almost more than you can sell a coyote right now, which is kind of true for some of them. So, keep those really nice rabbits. They can't have damage in the shoulders to the front, so make sure you get them in the back end somehow to kill them. You don't want any front shoulder damage, I guess, from what I understand. So, I think that's all I got for the fur market discussion. I'm not going to really go into prices, like I said. Prices are going to be so, different depending where you're at. And I think that we'll soon know the prices when this Fur Harvesters auction comes up, what everything's kind of sitting at. I think at the end of the season, you'll see more country buyers maybe trying to buy a few things to fill some orders that they might have. I don't know how many orders are out there. Probably not a lot. Myself, I am buying some Western coyotes just for myself. I don't expect to resell much of them, but I'm looking to accumulate some of the better skins. I am looking for some beaver, put-up skins mostly. I'm limited in processing in the spring for beaver, so I'm just looking for some put-up skins. I'll be looking for a lot of that, and some caster. I'm always looking for some nice heavy raccoon. I'm looking for some good color heavy raccoon. I prefer to find North Dakota raccoon just because I like to deal with North Dakota products that's trapped in North Dakota. But I might be looking for a little bit of that. So I think that's it. I think it's wrapping up my episode here. Some of the stuff coming down the road here. I'm going to have a couple people on that are going to talk about some fur auctions. I think I got somebody that's going to talk about hunting with hounds, which is interesting. I don't have any experience with that. I think that's coming down the road here. I'm going to try to get some people talking about some thermal stuff. North Dakota is big into thermal. The good coyote years, the golden coyote years, or whatever you want to call it. The thermals came out of the woodwork. So I'm going to try to get some people on here to talk about some thermals and stuff like that. And there'll be some other stuff. I might have to have some emergency podcasts if some silly law tries to get passed in one of these states that are trying to limit, taking fur or whatever. I might have to have one of those and do a little rant or something like that. But if there is any questions, comments, suggestions, send me an email, info@volkfurs.com. I will try to answer that and go into depth on it. I want some feedback from you guys and kind of what do you want to talk about. I think we need to spread the word in a positive light and how fur is great to use and how its trapping is needed, is very important. Even if people don't understand it. So I guess I'll talk to you later. Until next time, hopefully you have fun the rest of the season and see you next time. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the most recent episode of the Volk Furs podcast. If you have any questions or comments, suggestions, please email me at info@volkfurs.com. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook, or you can contact me via my website at volkfurs.com.